All right. We are still going forward on day 3 of Peace Week, and we're getting close on the 99 days of peace through unity. We're on day 94, and we're just well, here in Australia. It's actually the International Day of Peace. It's Wednesday, the 21st of September. So, peaceful greetings to everybody. And I'm really, really thrilled to be here to be talking about an amazing project. We've been watching some of the posts that have been coming from Pato and Antoinette from their visits to Africa, their first big trip a couple of months ago, and their second big trip just recently. They just got back. And what are they doing in Africa? They're traveling all around east and west, north and south, and documenting the spirit of Ubuntu and how it is moving people to set up organizations and initiatives and platforms and education and humanitarian programs, environmental programs. It looks like it's an extraordinary project. And of course, Pato and Antoinette, very, very well known and well beloved by this community, reggae legends. And you guys are making the film. Welcome to Peace Week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you.
be here, Ben.
So, and Answer and Kudzai are joining us from Zimbabwe. We were especially delighted to have you both with us as director and cinematographer. Now, everything starts as an idea, right? In the beginning was the idea of something, and this is the inspiration, the brainchild of Gard Jameson. And Gard, like so many of these extraordinary people on the planet today that are Renaissance people doing incredible things, Gard is an absolutely amazing man doing incredible work in so many different fields. He's a board member of the Charter for Compassion. He's an educator. He's a professor. He teaches Indian and Chinese philosophy at the university there in Nevada, and 500 other things that Gard is doing and involved in, which are helping advance and evolve humanity. Gard Jameson, it's a real honor to have you here in Peace Week. Welcome.
My brother Ben, and so I just want to, as Stephen Colbert would say, tip of the hat, wag of the tail to you, my friend, for orchestrating this week. And this brainchild, Unity Earth, is an extraordinary gift to the planet. And all the people you've brought around you, your team, Kurt Johnson, various people are just extraordinary personalities on the planet right now. So if this team can't get it together, we're in trouble. So I'd say we're going to the Super Bowl with you, Ben Bowler. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Well, I want to share just a little bit of the backdrop of this story. So there's a little bit of context for you all. And I have been privileged to go to the Parliament of World Religions 7 times. I believe there have been 8. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but there's been since 1993, the second parliament. The first was in 1893, but the third was a big one for me. I got to go to Cape Town, South Africa, to meet Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and just an array of personalities. Houston Smith was there. It was just an extraordinary experience. But there was one fellow in particular who really caught my attention, and he was a professor at Cape Town University. His name was Professor Seteleon. And we all wandered into his classroom, and he gave us a lecture on the word Ubuntu. And that word, in that moment, during that lecture, sunk into my heart in ways that are hard to explain. But I realized, as Professor Seteleon said, that all African culture below the Sahara Desert, and I suggest before Islam sort of took a swath across the northern part of Africa, it was all Africa. All African culture below the Sahara is defined by this word. And when he began to explain the power of this word, I began to realize that this word, we say in Indian philosophy, mantra, this is a mantra for how we find our way forward on a very difficult world with very difficult issues. And so as I heard that story, and as I listened to Nelson Mandela speak to us on Robben Island about his journey from being a very angry activist revolutionary in the early days of the ANC to becoming the hero of South Africa, and I will say the hero of the planet in the way he has approached issues. I said to myself, someday. And so during the course of my journeys, I've been privileged to meet a number of individuals from Africa. A friend of mine, Abimbalo Abaderan, who is a prince in the Yoruba nation, which is a very large nation in Nigeria, wrote a book called June 12th. And June 12th was the equivalent of our January 6th. Unfortunately for Nigeria, June 12th, the military took over Nigeria. And so we realized we're in a very precarious position. And so more and more, this word has sort of dug roots and grown in my own experience to the point where after meeting Abimbala, after meeting an incredible lady who you will see on the film once it's out, Alpha, who's in Rwanda, another incredible person, Deogracius, whose account is put into words by Tracy Kidder in the book Strengthen What Remains. He was a survivor in Burundi, and today he has one of the most incredible healthcare organizations in all of Africa. And person after person who I've met, Esther Mwangi, who is a Obama Fellow, who was here in Boulder City last year, along with several other Obama Fellows, began to tell me about the work in Kenya. And so all of these things began to align like the stars in the sky. All I needed was a person to help co-produce, or 2 or 3 or 4 persons to help co-produce this story of Ubuntu. And as the listening audience knows, there's probably no better persons than you are seeing on the screen, Pato, Banton, and Antoinette. And you're going to meet 2 amazing people from Zimbabwe, Answer and Kudzai, who as a team have really gathered resources and gone to, we're going to go to, I think, 12 nations throughout Africa, from the north, Ethiopia, to the south, South Africa, from the east, Kenya, to the west, Senegal. We're going to all these nations to document the power of this word. And Sunday, I was with a group of Pakistanis, as we all know, and my heart is mourning for the people of Pakistan. They've been devastated by a flood like no other. The flood was released because of climate change, because of the increase in temperatures and the glaciation releasing all this water, destroying their farmlands. I said to them, interestingly, I think there's an answer to not only the issues in Pakistan, but to every issue that faces us. And so I've shared with Answer and Kudzai and Pato and Antoinette a kind of a parable. There's a tree that grows in Zimbabwe. It's called a baobab. And it's one of the largest trunks you could ever see. It's got little tiny branches, but very large trunk. And there's a story that a French anthropologist shared, where he put a basket of fruit at the foot of a tree. And he asked several African children, that he told them, I will give all the fruit in that basket to the one who gets there first. And what blew me away in the story was that all the children, unlike I think here in the United States, you'd see a race like no other, but all the children held hands and they walked together to the basket to share the fruit together. And what we learn in the Golden Rule and the Charter for Compassion, Karen Armstrong, were all about the Golden Rule, is that nobody wins unless everybody wins. And so as we approach the issues of our planet, we have to all hold hands. And that includes Russians and Chinese and North Koreans and Iranians and all the people of the planet, because we need each other to hold hands to solve the issues that are facing us. And without that kind of cooperative win-win attitude of Ubuntu, I am because we are because I am, we're going to struggle as a species. And the other species, especially in Africa, the nations of the world like Pakistan are going to suffer because of what the industrialized nations have done. And what we need to do is we need to hold hands, as Malala is telling the United Nations today, and as so many great voices, Greta Thunberg and others, are telling us, we need to hold hands and move toward the issues that face us as a planet. And this is truly what inspired me to move this documentary. And as you can all see, in May, I was at Plum Village at a Buddhist retreat, and I was told not to speak because I was white and I was old and I was a man. So I realized very quickly that this project would only be successful if I could send my brother Pato and Antoinette to Africa to join forces with Kudzai and Answer and really engage. And as you will hear in a moment, they really have engaged the peoples of Africa from north to south, from east to west. And what we hope to do is release at the Parliament of the World Religions in Chicago in 2023, the Ubuntu Project, and to share with 10,000 people, and I hope you'll all be there, the power of this mantra, the power of this word to transform everything. And I mean, every issue you could imagine will be transformed if we can learn to do what those children did. And the last piece I'll leave you with is there's an old proverb in Africa, and I suspect it came from Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe grows the baobab tree. And that is that wisdom is like the baobab tree. No one person can encompass it. No one person can embrace it. But if we all embrace it together, holding hands around the baobab tree, we will find the wisdom that we need to solve the issues of our planet. And so it's with great joy that I turn to my brother Pato to share the incredible adventure that he and Antoinette have been on with my brother Kudzai and Answer.
Thank you, God. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to ask me directly, Ben, or do you want me to just...
Well, just tell us, Pato, firstly, what prompted you to say yes to Gard's invitation? What was it about this project that you felt committed to? It's such a huge undertaking, multiple trips to Africa, so much traveling. You're already so busy with your music and many other incredible projects, at home in the States. What was it about this project that sparked your creative interest? And then tell us about the creative process over the last 6 months.
I think, well, firstly, I have a deep love and respect for my brother Gard. And we have a very, very beautiful friendship that has been evolving over the last 10 years. So I know Gard, he's not very frivolous with his time, and I know he respects my time. So when Gard said he wanted to approach me with an idea he had, I was like, all right, this must be something very, intriguing. So we set a meeting date, and after Gard explained the Ubuntu philosophy and the idea and the vision, I was so excited. Not only because Gard presented it, but also because me and Antoinette have made multiple trips to Africa on different missions, more Urantia-based missions. Plus we went to Ethiopia with Unity Earth, which sparked a great interest for Antoinette in Shashamane. She has a deep interest in that community. Me and Antoinette have been talking about doing a tour of Africa for the last 5 years. We just have been trying to get enough resources to do it. So when Gard approached us and let us know that the resources would be available for the trip, and that we would also be able to bring in 2 film producers from Zimbabwe, which gave us more time to really capture the essence of the project. You know, more free time to focus on the different people and the organizations and the planning and everything else. It just seemed to all fall into place perfectly. And the places that God also highlighted were the places that Antoinette had been talking about as well, you know. So it didn't, you know, I realized the weight of the project, you know, how serious it is as far as the responsibility to take care of the flights, the visas, the hotels, the transportation, you know, feeding my crew, everything. The list goes on and on and on and on. And also supporting some of the organizations that we come across on the road, which was very key, you know, to not just go in and film them and capture them, but also to find out what are their real needs. How can we be of service to these great leaders who are being of service to their communities? And the whole idea, the more I learned about the philosophy of Ubuntu, was the more it seemed to fall in line with the good news, you know, which has always been my primary objective, is to spread the good news that we're all God's children, brothers and sisters. And the philosophy of Ubuntu, that I am because we are, and the humanity, the love for humanity behind Ubuntu. And also the socialism aspect of Ubuntu, that those who have an in-depth responsibility to help those who don't have. So the whole ideology behind Ubuntu was totally in sync with our beliefs. Also, me and Antoinette were, you know, nominated as ambassadors of the Golden Rule by Ambassador Musi in Ethiopia. And the Golden Rule is also, you know, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the additional step of the Golden Rule is to do unto others, even when they're not doing unto you, the way you'd like to be treated, you know, and to recognize the fraternity of all humanity, that we are actually all one family, regardless of our beliefs, our culture, our sex, whatever it is, we are one family. So all of this bringing all of this together was a great motivation, you know, for us to do this and make it a success. And, you know, I could go on and on and on about the backstories, about the things that will probably never be captured on camera, you know, but what we have captured on camera is absolutely beautiful and amazing. But this whole experience has been mind-expanding and life-changing for me. And for that, I will be eternally grateful to my brother God for placing this responsibility in our hands, which has become a labor of love. And I'm going to rest it right there before I get emotional.
The audience doesn't know, but Pato is my younger brother. He got the beautiful mother. And
so thank you. So that being said, I'm going to pass it over to my brother Kudzai, Chief Kudzai.
All right, thank you very much, Pato, and thank you, Ben. Well, I'd like to say, when I was approached to direct this documentary, I had the narrative that I usually use when making documentaries in Africa. And usually when we make documentaries in Africa, it's all about the poverty in Africa, and then somebody from Europe or America comes and gives aid to Africa. But now when God came with this approach, it was life-changing for me, because it's now Africa giving back to the world through love, through giving, through compassion, and For me, it was a total turnover of what I used to create. Earlier this year, I got an award for making a film for the World Health Organization. It was about donating to the poor people of Africa, and now I've been given a task to make something about Africa, donating love and the spirit of Ubuntu to the world. It was breathtaking, and for me, it was a big yes and yes and yes. And I was like, it's game. I am happy to be part of this. So we started brainstorming on how we're going to make our documentary. Now, when making a documentary like this, it's very difficult to script before filming because when you get in the field, you get different stories, different approaches. So what we decided as a team, led by my brother Pato, who's the producer of the film, we agreed to go and shoot everything a camera can ever shoot in Africa. So we just went and shot everything. And we have been shooting literally everything that we came across in Africa. And it's been an experience that has changed my life. I've seen the grateful side of Africans, the happy side of Africans. You know, I was told a proverb in Burundi. When we went to Burundi, they said, the people in Burundi can sing and dance whilst bullets are flying over their heads. And I literally saw that in their difficult circumstances, they were all happy, dancing and smiling, and they were caring for each other regardless of the hardships they were facing. So that was us as a team now moving around different countries. I'm just gonna highlight the trip. Then I'll hand over to my brother Ansa, who's my co-film director on this project. So we started with Kenya, went to 2 locations in Kenya. It was an amazing experience, especially to see Antoinette as our drone pilot. It was a wow experience in Kenya. Then we went over to Uganda. Now the main challenge that we've been facing in the airports was to get equipment in the country. You know, it's been very difficult. Up to today, there are some of the equipment that we haven't recovered. So went from Kenya, and we did. This was the first phase. We did Kenya, we did Uganda, we did Rwanda, and we did Burundi. And you can see the guys are smiling when I say Burundi, because we had a hard time to cross over into Burundi. But however, whatever we went to these different countries to achieve, we managed to achieve. We met different organizations, recorded the works that they are doing in line with Ubuntu. And this was the end of the phase of the first phase 1. Then recently we've just arrived from the second phase, where we did Ghana, Nigeria, and Ethiopia, where we went to my now favorite community, the Rastafarian community in Shashamane. I've never seen a loving community in my entire life, in my entire experience with the religion, like the Rastafarian community. Every sentence they say to each other, it's all about love, it's all about caring. In their hardships, it's all about love and caring. It was life-changing for me, and I really enjoyed filming this documentary. For now, I'll stop here. I'll hand over to my brother Ansa.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kudzai.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
So I've been working with Kudzai for the past few months. So Kudzai approached me, telling me about the Ubuntu project, and he said, "Brother, I want you to join me to be part of this journey of Ubuntu." And I didn't know what was in front of us. And then he explained to me about Gard and Pato and Antoinette being the team that is involved in this project. And first and foremost, before I go any further, I just want to thank God for putting this team together. This is really an amazing team. Such loving people, such caring people, such passionate people. And so at the first time I heard about Ubuntu, with the way we define it in our country, I was very excited to hear that we are going to document this in other African countries as well. So I became very curious to know what other cultures, how other cultures define Ubuntu in their areas. So I was very, very looking forward to it. I think I was told, I think I was informed about this project. I think it was a month earlier. So I was really looking forward to it. So we then started our journey in Kenya. Well, I've been used to just get to a place and then we just pull out our cameras and our equipment and then we just start filming. But it was different from the usual things because, you know, we would get there and in my mind, I would think we're just going to get there and pull out our cameras and film people and everything. But they have been waiting for us. They've been preparing dances, music, food. And I'm like, what? Wow. And, you know, the hospitality, you know, the way they received us, already it would just explain more about Ubuntu before they even define it during the interviews, whenever we asked them. So it was a really good experience for me. I got to learn Ubuntu in different cultures, different countries, and see what people are doing in there. The one thing that fascinated me the most was the project that I saw in Burundi. I did not see that coming. We went to this place, the way I thought the place is like, and what I saw was totally different. Totally different. I always talk about this. I've been even sharing this to my friends when I came back from Burundi. I was like, guys, I saw something that I haven't seen in a place that you would never expect to find something like that. I saw this building, this hospital, you know, the community, people, and the palace. It was really, 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 really good. And I was actually looking forward to see what's more am I going to see in other countries. So on phase 2, it was more like surprises. So before I go to a place, I always think or imagine what the place is like. But on phase 2, I was like, I'm just gonna see what's there because I know already whatever I think is not what I'm gonna see. So I would see things that I wasn't expecting, and I was really inspired, moved by different cultures. It was really amazing, and I really thank the team that we've been moving around with. Very, very good team. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. I tease answer all the time because I said don't answer any questions because if anybody who traveled and knows how difficult it is to actually get in and out of these countries with different things, it's very, very difficult. Like Kudzai had mentioned, we've lost some equipment. We've had some equipment hijacked and some different things. So it takes a lot of finesse and diplomacy and finagling and a little bit of New York hustle vibes, which I have, in order, you know, which I've taught them kind of a few things about bogarting and things like that. So that way we can kind of get through to complete our mission. So I kind of teach them the American ways of like how we're going to get through this in order we can get through this on time. Because if we don't, we will still be there at the airport, still talking to these people about 100 different issues. Anyway, I just want to sit there and say thank you again, Gard, too, because I believe this project has actually changed my life. I mean, that's my name, the Rootsdawtah. It's come full circle about coming back to my roots. Seriously, everything that I've seen, just like Kudzai said, we have seen so much out of Africa. Anytime we see anything, and when people to the West and to the rest of the world, when they look at Africa, they think of begging Africans. You know, that's all they have to offer is with their hands out. Please give me money. Please give me food. Please support me. Please help me. And then I think these kinds of attitudes kind of turn off people from the West. And they think, oh, if we're going to hear from somebody from Africa, they're going to be asking me for money or asking me for things or whatever. And it's just that kind of disconnect with the rest of the world. This documentary is actually going to show the world the beautiful side of what Africa has to offer. Just like Kudzai said, this could actually, the places that we have visited can not only shape Africa, but can shape the world, can save the world. What Answer's talking about, what I've seen with Deo, that is so incredible. We need to sit there and clone Deo. We need to clone this guy. We got to clone this woman. We got to, all these incredible people who are doing a great works. It sets the example. The things that I've seen in Rwanda, like for instance, it's 64% women in parliament. The president has cleaned up that country by employing women. The women, when I asked the women what has happened, they said they had killed off, the guys had killed off each other, that women had to go in there and clean up the country in every single position that you could think of, not just political, but in social avenues. And so when you walk around Rwanda, you're not thinking of genocide and all the horrible things that we've seen in Hotel Rwanda. You see Laguna Beach, you see Black Beverly Hills. Me, Kudzai, and Answer walked around for days looking for a piece of garbage. I couldn't even find a cigarette butt, not even a cigarette butt, a gum wrapper, a piece of nothing. You don't find any garbage there whatsoever. And when I asked the people, they said the change was difficult, but it had to be done. The more I kept researching, I was finding all these incredible women that were like leading and setting examples all across the continent. And then I was like, wait a second. So for the question who asked, what do we hope to see from this documentary? Me personally, I've already set up so many things that I've already got going on, you know, because I think of the last trip that we went to, which was Ethiopia. And when we were in the museum and I saw the Pan-Africanism, after we interviewed Ambassador Musi Hailu, and we were in the museum, Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie and Booker T. Washington, when they came together and they said self-determination, self-reliance, and our self-destiny. This was the motto that they had used in order to sit there and form the African Union. Out of all the places that we have traveled and seen, if you look at the airport, Ethiopia is the hub of Africa. All the leaders, when we came there with Unity Earth, all the African leaders came there to Ethiopia. If they start seeing the changes there in Ethiopia, it will also start showing the changes that's happening for the rest of the world, because they're also growing food, they're supplying all sorts of different things. What I also noticed within that community, like I said, is my favorite community out of the whole place, is because we have African diaspora coming in from America, the Caribbean, and the UK. These people gave up their homes, they gave up their jobs, they gave up their livelihood, they gave up the comfort of their home. They weren't poor people that came over to repatriate back into Ethiopia. These are well-to-do, successful people that came back to sit there and say, we've got to help our brothers and sisters and help this community. My favorite person, Layla, she was born, she's Ethiopian, but she was raised in Kenya. She purposely came back to Ethiopia to help her people. And the reason why she did it was because of reggae music. This woman is a mover and a shaker. There's so many women like behind the scenes that you're going to sit there and see, you're like behind the scenes that are really doing it. There's a lot of incredible men. And I'm sitting there saying, what if they all knew each other? I said, what if we took these people from over here and sent them to train with Deo? And I asked Deo, I said, Deo, would you be willing to consider like internships and have people learn of what you were able to do here in your community and send them back so that way they can do the same in their community? Each one of these communities have something wonderful and great to offer. And they also have great opportunities of self-sustainability, because they're not looking for a handout. They're just looking, you know, they're like, if you're coming in and taking something out of Africa, instead of the dishing out and then keep coming back for more, they have ways where they can grow their own food, where they can create the sustainability, where they can plant the trees, where they can educate, between the East and the West and everything else. But the thing is, they don't know about each other. And that's the importance of this documentary, to be able to learn about each other. And that's the responsibility of us, because we're not just shooting the documentary. We are now heavily involved in these people's lives. We're heavily invested in these people's lives. We can't just shoot them and say, all right, bye, thank you, and that's it. It's like, we have to sit there and watch them grow and see them continue. And I can actually see the success if they actually, connect with one another, if we get the different organization to sit there and support the wonderful projects, and also show like what they can do here in America and also in the UK based on what they're actually doing, and with the spirit of Ubuntu. Thank you.
So Ben, there's another proverb that comes from Africa. I have the privilege of teaching African philosophy. The truth that was lost in the morning shall return in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at the Melbourne Parliament, I believe, Ben.
Yes.
You saw all the Indigenous leaders holding hands across the stage. And they said to us, the audience, when you are ready to listen, we have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Africa's had the answers. This is the home of humanity. Out of Africa, all humanity emerged. Africa's had the answers for millennia. And I believe it's time we move back across the Middle Passage to tap into that rich resource and to allow ourselves to see that we industrialized nations are really quite poor. My grandmother spent time with a fellow named Albert Schweitzer, who left Germany. He was one of the great musicians, philosophers, theologians in Europe at the time, to start a small medical clinic in Africa. And he said something really profound. And this is what Ubuntu understands, is that the only real happy people, fulfilled people on the planet are those who know how to serve. So we're hoping that the Ubuntu project will become something like the Heifer Project. If anybody knows the Heifer Project, you bought a cow or a chicken or something for a family in Latin America or South America, and you help sustain them. So again, if we could provide just not much, but some resources to help my brother Moses, who brick by brick is building an educational institution in Zimbabwe that is spectacular, and he wants to have it to be a model for other communities around Africa. If we in some measure could help that, and we could learn from Ubuntu, then imagine climate change, war, violence, all of the things that are besetting us right now, our educational issues. Africa has so much to teach us about education. First of all, we white people need to learn how to dance. We don't know nothing about rhythm, right, Ben?
That's right.
I have a lot to learn. So anyway, we are so thrilled, and it's such a privilege to be alive at this moment of planetary history and to be able to provide this gift to hopefully a lot of people.
One thing I did want to add, though, I see Gard's comment. It says, first we will share to the Parliament to World's Religion, then onto a tour for festivals and documentaries. So that's very awesome. I know Kudzai is chomping at the bit because he's been wanting to release this at the end of this year. He's so ready. He's so ready. But one of the things that we've already been discussing that Pato has mentioned, that when Burundi opens their hospital, that we would like to go there for his opening, because that grand opening, because that's going to be so impressive and amazing. And I've already been plotting with Layla and them a peace concert in Ethiopia for 2023, because I was sitting there thinking about it, and it was Ben that I kind of got the idea from when we went down to Jordan, Israel, and Palestine. I said, we don't have to go and tell anybody to stop fighting, because even though people are sitting there saying, and I got warnings not to go into Ethiopia because of the armed conflict, but we had no issues whatsoever, no problems whatsoever. I mean, the things that they're working on and they're taking care of, they are being handled and dealt with. But I was sitting there thinking, it's like, what if we, the example of peace, of how unity earth is like, we don't have to tell people what to do. We just have to show the example. And I've already, since I've been back in these last few days, I've started organizing with some people from Colorado and New Mexico and other areas of people who would like to make a pilgrimage, for a peace concert in Shashamane in 2023. So, together with Yas and the communities and stuff, we're going to make this happen, and it's like, let's get the peace train going. Let's start showing that the world is looking at Ethiopia, because they are the the origins, the land of the origins, and it's going to be the bright shining star, the documentary. Everything is happening in divine order.
Amazing, amazing! What an incredible team that has been assembled to put this beautiful, beautiful project together. I love the sharing, Kudzai, of what you were sharing about how this is different to every other project you've worked on, and the enthusiasm of Answer. And I know what it's like to be on the road with Pato and Antoinette. It's a lot of fun. I never had Antoinette flying a drone though. That's next level. That I'm not sure about that, but no, this is unbelievable. And Gard, it's going to be released at the Parliament in Chicago in 2023, and then go on this festival of documentaries. And I'm sure there are 10,000 other ways of distribution for a film like this, Pato, where people can gather in communities and watch it with some Q&As. But it just sounds like it's been an incredible educational journey for all of you in preparation for sharing those stories with all of us. So just in terms of like the final minute we might have each to sort of sum this up, what's been the biggest kind of surprise for you, Pato? What's been the biggest learning for you, or something where you weren't expecting to come across over this journey?
I think for me, the biggest learning experience is the extremities of wealth and poverty. And, you know, if I had $1 million, I would still not have any money in my bank account, because I would be so busy helping the extremely poor, because there's so many of them. And it's left me feeling overwhelmed to a certain extent, because I've been helping a lot of people across Africa. And, you know, even though Antoinette says that, you know, we're not documenting the needy of Africa. This documentary is to document the dynamic people of Ethiopia who are giving, who are doing something. But there are a lot of people in Africa who don't have that capacity. They don't have that mentality. They lack education. And most people can't think when they're hungry. So for the people who need food and water, they're not in a position to be creative, you know, and they really need the basic needs. And that's left me feeling overwhelmed, because as an individual, I can't help everybody. But there is enough people in the world. If everybody took on one person, we could help everybody, you know. So I'm trying to figure out how I can do this without feeling overwhelmed and burdened, you know. And I'm getting there. I'm learning. I've learned a lot, you know, and I want to try to be, instead of just giving the fish, I want to try my best to teach more and more people how to fish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pat. So what about you, Antoinette?
I was going to say kind of like the same thing. It's very, very difficult, because I'm watching him respond to every single person's request. And it's, you know, mentally, it's kind of draining, physically as well, too, because we're very busy trying to handle and everything. But he really, really tries to honor as many people as he can. But that also at the same time, it kind of deflates, you know, when you're trying to do other things and stuff like that, and you're trying to focus on so many other issues. And that's why I'm trying to help him. That's the reason why I said, let me just get these women together, because if the women can get together, then they can help. They see the needs, they can see the real needs, and they can also help us, instead of just two individuals trying to deal with everybody by ourselves. You know, there's a lot on our plate. But if there's one thing, and I said, you know, we're two different people. He's going to give immediately. I'm going to think about it and figure out how to give the way that's going to make sense to me, you know. So we have two personality conflicts as well too, but that's probably the biggest challenge. Everything else, you know, for the guys, they've had some challenges on the road, but for me, I'm kind of used to it. I'm like, this is nothing. I've been through so much worse. So that's why the whole trip makes it easy for me, because I prepared myself mentally and physically, because I know exactly what's coming and stuff. Thank you. Kudzai.
Amazing. And what an adventure. What an incredible adventure. Let me ask you a closing question too, Kudzai, and answer, and then we'll let Gard wrap it up. Kudzai, what's been the most surprising, wonderful, revealing thing about working with Pato and Antoinette and traveling with Pato and Antoinette?
Well, these are two brilliant people, two beautiful souls. Throughout this documentary, I've learned that talent can win a game, but teamwork can win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
If God had contracted me on my own, I wouldn't have achieved half the work that we have achieved so far. So when you come up with a team like this, I'm out of words. The work that we are doing is out of this world, and my appreciation to God for this opportunity to work with this amazing team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Magnificent. Teamwork is crucial to any success. That's wonderful, Kudzai. And answer, brother, I loved what you were talking before about the surprising factor of going to countries like Burundi and other places and being blown away by what not seeing what you were expecting in your mind, but finding all sorts of other things. What about Pato and Antoinette? How have you enjoyed the experience of working with them?
Sorry. Okay, can you come again with a question?
What's been the most surprising thing about working with Pato and Antoinette?
Well, these guys they end up being my family. I ended up considering them as family. They are so driven. That's the first thing I noticed. They are so driven, and when they are in the mood, they are in the mood. And when they want to get something done, they get something done. That's one of the things that surprised me, and that even motivated me. That, oh wow, this is a team. This is not like an individual work or whatsoever. Because you would also find Pato helping us with the cameras here and there. Antoinette will be helping us with the set. Oh, what if we shoot this way? What if? So it's more like creatives. We have come together to build one thing. And that's the most thing that I loved about these guys. Yeah.
Awesome. What an awesome answer. We're going to hear from Gard, but I just want to thank all of you for being with us to give us the spirit of Ubuntu, a little flavor for what's going to be released into 2023 with this amazing movie. And we can only imagine the incredible people you're spotlighting and their projects, and what an inspiration that's going to be for millions of people. Thank you so much for joining us. Pato, Antoinette, Kudzai, and Ansa. And Gard, well done. Congratulations. This is, a beautiful, there's a beautiful line in the Urantia book where it says the agreement between God and man, where man has faith and says yes, and God does the rest. It certainly sounds like there's a lot of divine inspiration in this project. So congratulations to you. And what's your final kind of hope or intention for this beautiful piece of work?
As Dr. King says, there's an arc to history. As the Urantia book says, light and life is ahead. And in my opinion, there's been a pride amongst the industrial nations suggesting that they have the answers. Well, they don't. And they've proven they don't. There's a wonderful index that shows that the United States of America, one of the wealthiest nations of the world, has the poorest index around subjective experience and well-being. And so I think Africa, as Kudzai well said, has an answer here in the evening. And we are in evening time. As I tell my students, all hands on deck, all oars in the waters. We need to move forward with courage, wisdom, and compassion. So blessings to all who are here with us. And Ben, God bless you for the work that you do.
Yes. Thank you, God. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And you're going to cry when you see Kudzai's vision. I'm telling you, it's going to be so emotional.
Amazing to meet you all. Thanks for being with us on Peace Week, and happy Peace Day to everybody. And we're going to follow Now, just quickly, are you going back to Africa for a third trip, or is it all in the can?
No, we got the phase 3 coming up in October,
October.
where we go to Senegal,
To
Rwanda, into
to
Uganda,
and then
Zimbabwe, to South Africa, to Durban and Johannesburg.
Wow. Wow, it's going to be absolutely epic. Can't wait. What an incredible gift